This is Software Meets Business, a podcast sponsored by Head Channel.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Software Meets Business. And with me today, I'm very excited to have Pablo Dimenza, who is the global CTO at EG Plus Worldwide. Hi, Pablo.
Hi, Richard. How are you?
I am good. It's been a while since we really talked in depth about anything. I mean, obviously, we had our businesses work with each other back in the day, so it's good to talk again.
Yeah, true.
So, Pablo, obviously, this podcast is all about the intersection of software and business. So, I think it's probably worthwhile for you to just kind of give us a bit of a background about how you got started in the industry and, kind of bring us up to date to where you are now.
Sure. Well, that's an easy one. You can tell from my accent that I'm not local. I was born in Argentina and I started my career there as a computer science engineer, working very closely with the university that I was studying. Very quickly, I had an opportunity to move to Europe, to Portugal in particular, to work in the financial industry there as a developer. And even quicker, I became a project manager and then moved around in many industries throughout almost 15 years in Portugal, when I got the opportunity to come to London to work in this exciting new platform for the music industry, which was pretty cool and exciting. So I approved everything and we moved here to London. That was 10 years ago. And since then, I got an opportunity in this another exciting industry that I never touched, advertising, in 2016 when I joined EG Plus as the director of technology under the previous CTO. And then right before the pandemic, I jumped ship to another advertising agency. And right after the pandemic, I was offered the job to come back as in the position of my previous boss, the CTO, which is where I am now. So, since 2021, I've been the CTO at EG Plus. It has been great, continuing the mission that I started with my previous boss here. And it has been really positive, really.
That's great. So obviously in, the many different roles that you've had, you've ended up building software, certainly as an individual contributor early on, but then, as the roles increased in responsibility and you had bigger teams, you've ended up building lots of different types of softwares. Tell us a little bit about some of those systems you've been involved in.
So at the core, I've been an engineer all my life. I've been involved in building software since inception. I think I never stopped doing that from different areas, right? From management, project management, but also from business analysts and actually coding. I'm not doing much coding these days, and nobody will want me even near the code. But yeah, I have done complex products like the one that we have in EG Plus, which is SaaS platform, cloud first, serverless microservices. And I have been building mobile applications as well. So I had a stint in I think it's when I met you, Rich, in my previous role, where we were building mobile applications for companies like Morrison's, the supermarket chain, and even the United Nations. So really cool projects there. And before that, I've been building software for the TV industry, for the government in Portugal, for the education department in Portugal, and it's always the chase of building something that creates value and creates some impact. That through software we can actually do stuff that is really, really cool.
So on your journey building these different types of software, have you worked with internal teams or external teams, and to what extent?
Both cases. So many that I that I can find all the examples that you can imagine. So both internal teams. At the beginning in my career, it was much more common to have everybody in-house. But as the industry have moved on, you either need external consultants for a specific part of the product, like maybe externalizing a component like the UX stuff, or the QA of the process. Right now, our team is composed of, I would say, 50-50 between permanent staff and contractors, for instance. And we also sometimes leverage some third parties, but not many on this case, because where I am, we have a big company and we have a lot of internal resources that we can leverage from other companies inside the group. So it has been a journey that has, I think, every model in terms of staffing and configuration works to whatever goals you want to achieve.
So you started off working with internal teams, and then because that's how the world was, and then you started to bring in external teams. So can you kind of take us back to some of that, early collaboration, and what did you notice about the different ways of working with teams who were delivering software for you?
Well, I don't think the fact that we brought external teams made much of a difference. When you find partners that feel and think and share the goal with you as a true partner, it feels like you're working with the same team. It doesn't matter who are they working for, they're working for the same goal. I think it's very efficient when you manage to get that relationship. So it's very important to choose the right partners to do that. And the cases that I had, we were very lucky to find people that we could give them the brief, what was the goal of the engagement. And we never treat any of our partners as a vendor. We treat everybody that work in the projects as part of our team. You felt that with us as well, Rich. So when somebody comes from an external company, anybody that comes is an integral part of the team and is treated the same way, has the same saying, same level of engagement like everybody else in the team.
And do you think everyone does that, or is that something special to you?
I wouldn't call it a specialty to me, but I think it's what it works for me. I've been on the other side many times. This role that I have now is the first one that I'm outside the tech industry, and always been in consultancy. And when I build software for clients, it was always the most successful configuration when you're working side by side, building it as a partnership and not as a vendor that you get the specifications, so you just build it to that specification and you walk away. If you have some skin in the game, even if it's just for that period that you're going to be engaged, that is enough for you to have a different approach to the job. And I remember when we did the United Nations project, which was very nice because it was very impactful. It was for the World Food Program, an offline mobile application for these people that go into disaster zones and try to reach out contracts for serving people in need with the infrastructure that is still standing after a disaster, like a hurricane or an earthquake or a war-torn country. So just being involved in that and thinking, I'm not working for this vendor. I'm not working for this client. I'm working with this client to solve a true, proper impact on to build something that is going to create a true impact to the lives of people that have been uprooted by this disaster. That is enough motivation, and you work in a different mindset. You don't work in like, I need to make my client happy. You make your client happy because you're working side by side with them, trying to achieve that goal.
And would you say, have you tried to do it a different way?
No, but I had clients that they try to push us into being a vendor, right? I had you have been probably as well in your career that you have a client that says, "But I'm the client, I'm the one paying the bill, so you need to do what I say." When you find those kind of things, you say, "Sure, okay, I need to keep the business. We're going to do whatever you want because it's the way they want it." But I never seen good success of those projects. Even after our engagement was put in that position and we became a vendor, it was basically we do whatever the client wants and the client is driving the strategy. But because you're not part of the impact, you're like basically providing a basic service and there is no really impactful motivation to that. You just do your job and then you walk away. I would say that I don't even remember those projects these days on what was built or how it looked, the software that we built. I wouldn't say that those projects are still even alive. But I'm sure that I know that the ones that we built that were in partnership, they're still being used these days. And that is the biggest testament of thinking a model like this works or doesn't work.
And why do you think it is that clients try and push you down a vendor route?
I think there is a level of, there could be many factors. One of them is control, and they are under pressure and they don't know better. They think that they have, if they bring somebody with expertise to the table and they and those others are smart enough to put ideas in front of them, and they feel they're not their ideas. They feel somehow disempowered, and they feel that it's their job and not your job. So the ones that want to create that separation tend to be more insecure, I guess. And the ones that the thing is, famous people said, I think it was Steve Jobs that says, you hire smart people not to tell them what to do. You hire smart people to tell you what to do. And if you're a consultant or you're working with a client, you're not telling, you work together, you're smart, you brought the skill sets that are not there, and they should rely on you. You have been brought to enhance and deliver something for the greater good. I think the problem there is that sometimes clients might be focused more on the how instead of what the goal that you're trying to achieve in those cases, and that is a recipe for failure in my view.
Yeah, and you've seen it fail before, I would assume.
Yeah. Anybody who has been in this industry for 5 minutes have been involved in a project that has failed. Tell me otherwise. It's a very common reason why projects fail. It's not the only one. There are many other ones, but more often than not, relationships. And when everybody feels the same sense of purpose and they're all pushing for the same objective, you're just more set for success in that way.
Yeah. And what about, although it's a bit of a loaded term, but methodologies? I know obviously we all know about Agile and stuff, although that's been around for 20 years now. That sounds scary. And some people would say that we need a new methodology, and I'm sure there are people trying to find those. Would you say there's any kind of learning in your career that you've had about the way that people, and I know, obviously waterfall's more aligned with kind of that vendor relationship.
Yeah.
But you could still have waterfall even in a team that felt part, a team of external and internal developers that all felt part of the same thing. So yeah, does the way that software gets built, does that have impact as well? What have you seen there?
Let me just interrupt this podcast for a few seconds. I just wanted to let you know about our wonderful sponsor, Headchannel. Headchannel builds software engineering teams, and they've been building software for clients since 2003. They have a very simple engagement model. Either they develop and run it, or they build it and you run it. They could also help with finding a fractional CTO if you need that support. You can find them at headchannel.co.uk. And now back to the podcast.
Yeah, well, you know me, I'm a big Agile proponent since, I didn't realize it has been 20 years, so thank you for that. So I feel really old now. I started my career as most of us in our generation in Waterfall. That was the standard. Even the Six Sigmas and the one here in the UK that is not even used anymore. The PMIs and the PMPs. I was certified. I'm certified PMP for many, many years. And I started as a waterfall project manager. It doesn't matter the methodology if the willingness is there. In terms of my evolution, I went from waterfall into Agile because I felt that waterfall was too much of we know that nothing gets built. Once you build one project, you know this right away. Nothing gets built the way that it was initially conceived, particularly in software. The moment that you start building something, you start changing it. And change is a constant in our industry, right? So Agile gives you that escape that allows you to pivot and to change as you go. And also it focuses you on what is valuable now and not what is valuable at the end of it, which might not be valuable because time is not a constant. I moved into Scrum first, and I went fully into Scrum. I'm very disciplined. I'm empirical. So if there is a methodology that you need to follow it. Agiles and the others, for me, those are trying to fit a square in a round hole. That will never go well. So if you're going to be committed to a methodology that has been proven that works, use it end to end. And when I used Scrum in the past, it was successful to some extent, but still you have to live with the limitations of that methodology. And in our case, Scrum was working well, but it was not working great. We had the limitation of having still a sprint. So every 2 weeks, we either fail or succeeded. Like in a waterfall, every milestone, you either fail or succeed. It's very digital. or very binary. And in our case, when we fell, it felt like a rock. It felt like you just dropped 2 weeks of effort, particularly the last few days before the end of the sprint, when everybody was rushing, everybody was trying to live with anxiety, not sleeping for two days of every 2 weeks, trying to get it over the line, and it didn't mean success every single time. So when I came back to EG Plus a few years ago, I hired somebody as a head of delivery and product, and he came with a different mindset. He came with, I see what you guys are doing. Let's do Kanban. Let's go Kanban. And I asked him about his experience on Kanban. He was asked me a fundamentalist. So if you're going to adopt a methodology, use the methodology end to end. So I'm like, first of all, anybody that I hire, they get autonomy to do as they need to do to implement the changes that they need. So I got on board on the idea, and I supported the implementation. Now we're running Kanban for the last 2.5 years, and it has been a massive change. I was talking to somebody else today, and I was saying we went for 1 release a month sometimes when we were lucky and achieving just 2 sprints, to around 3 releases in average per week. Just because we're releasing now feature by feature, we can change, we can pivot, we can do whatever we need, and we don't need to wait for a sprint to finish. We need to wait for a feature to be delivered. So I'm a big proponent of that kind of flexibility that you have, while there is some governance on how you do it, and it keeps things motivated. So now we're focusing on flow, we're focusing on cycle time, we're not measuring story points, we're not worried about those big planning sessions and refinements. We have what we need to do what we need, but that took us, this is important, that took us to grow in maturity. We had to go through Scrum to learn the pitfalls of it. We had to go from waterfall to Scrum from Scrum to Kanban to get to that point. If we were going to implement Kanban in the first go, it probably will fail miserably, because it doesn't have enough of that embedded discipline that you need. So having gone through the other stuff, we grow that empirical, we need to follow things by the book, and now we have something that works perfectly for us.
That's interesting. I mean, some people might say that, Kanban is too simple, but isn't probably that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're mature, it doesn't matter if it's simple, because you're not going to let it. You don't need the governance that a methodology brings if you don't need them governance, right? If you have an unruled team and unruled governance, and you need to put guardrails for everybody to know what they're aiming for, and you're a big book guy, go Prince 2, or go PNP, or go Waterfall, go with whatever you need. But we constantly are changing, and in our industry, our roadmap changes constantly. The requirements change constantly. We need to be able to pivot when we need. And if it is something that I learned, is that no engineer likes context switching. So if you're in the middle of the sprint and you have an emergency because a client escalated something, or I don't know, there is a problem in production, you have to drop everything you have to do to go fix that. That is something that is very unmotivating. When you're running Kanban, there is somebody that has finished something today. So you can start again. So everybody has that sense of accomplishment constantly, because they're shipping. We're shipping constantly stuff, even if in smaller chunks, true, but we're shipping constant stuff every single week, which is a great feeling. You're feeling accomplishment every single week, and every member of the team is feeling that. But that needs to be a driver. It's not the driver of the methodology, that's the driver of the team. If you have that, the methodology just allows you to do that. Kanban is not. Also, it's a misconception that Kanban is just simple. If you follow all the rules of the methodology, it's not simple. It's as complex as any other. It's just that it's not focused on having to build artifacts that are useless to the actual product, right?
Yeah. Okay. So how does that fit in? Because obviously you've got internal developers, but you might bring in external developers as well. So how does that all work with Kanban?
Well, our developers we have contractors, developers, and FTEs, and really, is as I said before, there is no difference whatsoever on the day to day. They all feel part of the team. Everybody in the team has been with us for a long run, and so they feel that they have a voice as everybody else. It doesn't matter how they get paid at the end of the month. And for us, that's the only way that it works, right? We are a team and we work as a team. So they influence the methodology. It doesn't matter, again, where they're coming from. They influence the methodology, how we work at the same degree that everybody else. We have people on all levels of seniority in all types of, obviously, managers, but all levels of seniority in engineering, both in FTEs and contractors. And it has been fine. It has been fine. I think it's part of the culture on what they're focusing day to day and what the impacts they have on the product is what drives them.
Yeah. And do you think that it would work as well if you think about some of the external development team? Would it have worked with all the different ways that you've worked with external teams previously? Or do you think that these two things have to be aligned?
I think you need to be disciplined as a leader, right? You need to ensure that culture needs to exist, that the way that you treat everybody in the team is the same. And obviously, you need to choose your partners. And if you achieve those things, I think it doesn't matter. Obviously, if I hire somebody and we explain the way that we work and the product that we're building, the technologies, it's as important to explain when we onboard a new engineer, when we interview an engineer, how much skill sets they have on the stack that we're using, as much as how much they believe in the way that we work. Both of those things are equally important. Because if they are coming with, I work in Kanban, in my previous company, it didn't work. I hate Kanban. And they're not going to give it a chance, right? So it's going to fail. Even if they're the best, whatever, .NET or Java developer that you have in the market, and that's the technology they're using. It's very important on casting that you have the same mindset and the same level of engagement. At the same time, I found that you interview somebody and you ask them, because it's an interview, have you worked in Kanban? What do you think about it? And they say, well, I don't mind. I work in whatever. That's also a disengagement, right? It needs to be at the same level of mindset that you have in the rest of the team.
Yeah, as in I worked in Kanban and I loved it.
Yeah, well, or I found this is what works in Kanban and this is what doesn't work, and how do we resolve those things? Because no methodology will be perfect. That's the bottom line. Is that there is no perfect methodology, and every methodology has its place for the team, the shape, the size, the product that you're building, the company, the culture that you have in the team. So it's a tool. It's not the why, it's just the how.
Given the way that you run things now, that wouldn't have worked in every single context that you've had previously.
No, not at all. And I'll give an example. There was one project that we did for a very time-sensitive project in Portugal a long time ago. I feel like it was in a different life. But it was for the Department of Education, and we had a deadline that was already passed. We came in because the company was failing to deliver. So we came in to solve this massive algorithmic problem that they had to start classes in the country. So it was required that this process would run for classes to start that year. So it was on the news, it was everywhere. We jumped into this project. It was 5 of us. And we came from a very academic-based company with a very structured approach, waterfall. But in this case, we didn't have time to do all the phases. For instance, our requirements documentation was a law document, a published law documentation. And we had our stakeholders were lawyers. So we didn't have time to do proper business analysis and understand everything and put everything on paper and create all the artifacts that we need to create. And our backtracking system was the news TV show and then APMs. If anything that we did that day didn't run properly, we will know on the news. There was no backtracking software that we had or a proper QC, QA process that we could have to promote software to production. We had to run every single day the process and get things done. It was so high profile, this project, that obviously was high pressure as well, that we had to adapt to it. And we had to focus on what was important. If I would say at that point, I'm going to choose Scrum, Kanban, or any methodology here, it would never have worked. Any methodology, even Waterfall, we went in thinking naively that we could use Waterfall, which is what we knew. Sometimes you have to throw everything out the window and think, okay, so what is actually needed here? What is important here? And then come up with your own way of working for that. In this case, we did what we needed to do, and in 3 months, we were basically where we needed to be. But it was, for me, that was the eye-opener when I thought methodology or the way of working is not the what, it's just the how. And you can shift it to your needs. It's a tool that you need to shift to your needs. It's not something that you have to just shoehorn. But there are things that you know that they are repetitive, and you can if you have time and you are building something from scratch and you're starting everything from in a greenfield, then you can choose to build it that way. So in my current role, that's the opportunity that I had to build not just the product itself, but also how we're going to build it. So, and I chose something that I didn't choose. The team together, we choose from the technology stack to the methodology that we will apply, thinking, okay, this is going to work, but we're going to do it this way. It's the same way that you're thinking, okay, so I'm going to choose an architecture in the system that is, microservices. Why would you choose microservices when it's not the right solution for the problem that you want to solve? Just because it's nice in a book or you read an article? No, you have to choose microservices because you want that the scalability, the plug and play, the modularity that it gives you, and the level of maintainability that it gives you. But that's why you choose it. That's not the only reason.
Because you want it on your CV. That's surely.
Yeah, that's surely what normally happens, right? Yeah. Or you did in the previous project, but then you become fanatic, right? You become a fanatic of that methodology, that stack, that way of working. And the whole point of Agile in the manifesto is continuous improvement, right? You need to, and that applies to yourself as well. You experiment, you test a method, a hypothesis, you learn, you adapt, you grow. You need to do it yourself as much as you need to do it with the team.
Yeah. So hiring external developers, let's go back to that. And you talked about the fact that they're all part of the team and it's kind of a one team approach. So everyone has the same things. Is that always possible though? Because do you ever find that you can't do that due to commercial realities or regulatory realities or, regional differences?
Yeah, more often than not, the limitations are on the commercial side, on the company side, that we are limited on budget, or we want to capture the spend and we can use resources that are not internal or from a sister company or something like that. And sometimes you basically stuck with the resources that you have. That is a tough way to be. I think over the years, I learned to find what motivates individuals at the individual level and understand where they can fit and they're better. But at the end of the day, when you have a limited amount of resources and you have so much to achieve, that could be a problem when you're limited. I'll give you an example. I have a colleague that works for a company that is a tech company, very new startup, and they decide to go back to the office, which is what some companies are doing today. That just at the start, that just limits your options that you have on staff, right, on talent. And if that's a goal, then you're going to limit what your options are. You're going to limit what you can achieve. I would prefer to have the freedom to find the best talent wherever there is and use them. And when I say the better, it's not the better developer. It's the better fit for the job that you have in front of you. And that could be somebody in Nigeria or somebody in South Africa or somebody in London, but is working for in a completely different industry. You need to be flexible in that sense. Or somebody that only works as a contractor, fixed-term contract, and doesn't want to work as an FTE. I think more often than not, companies think, particularly people that are not in the tech environment and they're managing the tech budgets and stuff like that, they think that they have a better idea and they put artificial limitations in front of you that doesn't help and they're not productive. But you need to work with those and you need to basically be resourceful. And worst case scenario, try to find the best partner that you can find to accomplish your goals.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about partner, you mean someone or a company that can supply a number of people?
If you can access them, yes. There are some companies don't allow to work with third parties like that. But yeah.
Yeah, because that obviously makes things easier, right? Because then you've got one central.
Yeah, and you bring the expertise that you need, right? And you don't need to worry about staffing. I think if we look forwards, I think those things will change a lot. I think the market has shifted a lot. You can see that there have been so many layoffs in the tech industry. I don't think we ever seen this level of layoffs. When in the past, talent was so scarce that you basically grab anything that you can from the market and try to build something. Or sometimes you spend months and months and months trying to hire one developer. I remember that it was not long ago. And now it feels that if you throw a stone, you can get a very good developer at a very competitive price in the center of London right now. So I think things are shifting, and that will change also the way that we do stuff. Also, you have the advent of Gen AI, when you have CEOs listening to the promise that you don't need more developers anymore. You can go to ChatGPT and build your application just by prompting it. And so whatever you want to say to your CTO, your head of development, or your VP of technology, you just record it, you send it to ChatGPT, and poof, an application is born. That's it.
It must be that simple. It's got to be that simple, apparently.
Yeah, it's going to be like that. Maybe Elon Musk is right, and in 3 years we have that, or 4 years or whatever, we have billions and billions of robots that they can do these jobs.
Yeah, because he was completely right about self-driving cars. I trust that guy. I trust him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's gonna be interesting now with what happened in the US this week. How much influence those people are gonna have in the evolution of technology in the next 4 or 5 years. So we'll see. I think it's gonna be. I think we're in an inflection point in terms of industry and in terms of actually at some point even society, I will say. I'm not sure how we as society will react and the impacts of that, how deep and transcendental will be. I have no idea. I'm just a simple human, and or maybe I'm an AI. Who knows?
Well,
maybe I should ask
hopefully not an AI, Pablo, because that would be quite freaky. Because I definitely thought you were human when we started this conversation. So that's
yeah. Well, we're getting better and better.
Yeah. So I mean, so any kind of final kind of closing thoughts on if you're someone who's listening to this who wants to build some software and you have some experience or maybe no experience of hiring external teams to do it, what would you say to them about how they go about that?
I think it's critical that you focus on finding the right people. Get yourself, and this is applicable not just when you're building software, but it's applicable for any business and even personal relationships. Surround yourself with people like you and with people not like you. You need that balance. So focus on the skills that you have and rely on others for the skills that you don't. And trust. I think you need to find people that you can trust, and that could be an external partner, or it could be a contractor, it could be an employee, it could be whoever. But it's so important that you go at it together with people that you trust. Then that could be the whole difference between success and failure. If you approach this in top down, I'm going to get a guy that could do this and a guy that could do that, and then I will put it all together, it's doomed to fail. In my view, in my honest view.
Yeah. No, appreciate your final thoughts there, Pablo. Thank you so much for being with us today on this episode of Software Meets Business. Really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Software Meets Business, the podcast sponsored by Head Channel. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your preferred platform.